This is Thomas Donald Jacobs for Paper Boys on Thursdays, and it was at least still Thursday when I started recording this. So, good to see you again. I know it's been a while. Long story short, I was extremely sick this past summer and did fuck all right? But I'm on new medication and I am starting to feel like a semi functioning human being again, so I thought I would come back to you with another angry, long winded rant. Because, yeah, I enjoy it. Um, I was watching Katie Montgomery's channel, which I will link to below, because she's an amazing content creator and a fantastic representative of the transgender community. She was going over the flyers that were handed out at this year's LGB Alliance convention or conference or hate rally, whatever they're calling it this year. If you're not familiar with the LGB Alliance, um, I will again refer you to Katie for more particulars, but to sum them up, they are a collection of bigots masquerading as gay rights groups. Okay, that's it. That's what you have. Grifters. Um, most of the flyers are nothing out of the ordinary. Okay, about what you would expect if you're familiar with any of these groups. This one, however, caught my attention. Um, because of who has written it. It is produced by a group called the Gay Men's Network. Um, there's two things about this that I find attention grabbing. First, if you are, unfortunately, familiar with these miscellaneous collections of bigots at anti-trans gatherings, what you normally find is that the male attendees are, well, Matt Walsh kinds, all right? Or members of the Jordan Peterson fan club, the so-called alpha males, and the incels, and the future serial killers of America, all right? Those types of guys. And it's not a secret why they are there. They are there because they love hearing women espouse internalized misogyny. Right? They love hearing women talk about how the most essential, the thing you absolutely have to be a woman, according to them, a functioning uterus, the ability to breed. Okay? uh, Women as livestock. These guys, those creepos, they are there like nom 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 nom. All right, they love that shit. That's why they're there. Okay, not a secret. Um, this group, however, I'm like, I mean, I know some gay men who are misogynists, but like, really, you that hardcore? Like, what are you doing? And also, I was curious as to what would form the motor of fear. Okay. The women's groups that are just women hating turfs, because, they don't care about all women or even any women, in fact. Um, those groups play upon a couple of things that are very common in, predominantly white, cis, het, Western industrialized countries. Okay, culture, pop culture. So, stereotypes about trans women in horror movies like Silence of the Lambs, yawn, um, or in J.K. Rowling's new sideline, her shitty detective novels, again, boring. Um, they play upon those sorts of stereotypes that a lot of people, have consumed and are familiar with. So it's like a ready made, they don't have to convince people because they think it already exists, even though it's, fiction. All right. Um, and they also have the support of, uh, you know, our patriarchal culture, which both seeks to control women and women's bodies, as well as, um, on the other side, and there's a lot of that too going on, protect white women in particular, from like the evil threats of blah. Um, and then lastly, the sad fact that because of that culture, um, women are targeted as a group. All right. The problem is they're not targeted by trans women. All right. There's no evidence for that. A couple of anecdotes about shitty trans people does not an epidemic of violence or a real threat make. So you have all of those things going on. But what was this group going to use, this gay men's group, as a motor of fear in their little piece of propaganda? I was curious to know. So that's why we're going to cover this. Now, the pamphlet, or flyer rather, it's just one page, front and back, starts off with the word manifesto and big bold letters. And I find that amusing. Okay. Because manifesto has two connotations, one positive, one negative. Positive, this is a statement of serious political or philosophical thought by people who have seen a problem that actually exists, and they are going to address the problem with real world solutions. And then there's the other kind of manifesto, bad manifesto, produced by somebody who does not have a one-to-one relationship with reality and is going to tell you all about it in writing. That kind of manifesto. And it amuses me because this is definitely the second one posing as the first. It's cleverly constructed. It seeks to lure people in a way that many of the other flyers passed around at these bigot rallies do not. A lot of the other ones, like, beat you over the head with their craziness. This one tries to be a little more clever. So it starts out with things that sound reasonable. All right? That Joe Blow off the street, that they are trying to trick into giving them money, wouldn't necessarily question. So, like, number one, we advance the rights of homosexual men to live free from persecution and discrimination. Number three, we will ensure that our voices as gay men are heard in public and political discussions affecting our lives. Yeah. Who's going to disagree? People who are already fucking beyond reach, all right? The thing is, though, that the manifesto also has another audience, and that is their fellow bigots. And that becomes apparent in number two, but only if you are familiar with the kinds of discourse that these people use. Number two says, we assert our rights as homosexuals on the basis of our sex and being same-sex attracted. Now, Joe Blow off the street is going to be like, okay, yeah, I'm not sure why you had to point that out. I thought that that's what gay men is. Gay men means you are a man and you are attracted to other men. But That's because Joe Blow off the street uses gender and biology interchangeably. Gender and sex are just, people refer to one when they're really talking about the other, or vice versa. Um, that's not what this group is doing. Okay, this is the signaling to the other crazies. We are among you. We are with you. We are one with the hive mind of nuttiness. All right, because the emphasis is on the word sex. All right, basis of our sex and our same sex attraction. Uh, these people don't think that gender is a thing, or that if it is entirely dependent upon and subordinate to their small child's understanding of biology. Basically, I'm not going to go into it. You've already heard me rant about why they don't know anything about biology, which is far more complicated and nuanced than they are capable of understanding or accepting. Um, so that's why the emphasis on sex. That's also interesting because they call themselves the Gay Men's Network and not the Gay Males Network. So they too are familiar with the concept of gender, even if they don't like it. Um, and speaking of language, that brings us to like the parts of the manifesto, points 4, 5, and 6, that require explanation. All right. This is why they have started off with the things that sound semi reasonable to get you to stand there long enough to take the flyer and listen to them, chatter on, instead of walking quickly by and trying not to make any eye contact. Okay. This is the bit where you might start edging away. All right. Um, Number 4, we defend our right to speak about ourselves and our experiences in plain, sex based language. This is where Joe Blow off the street is going to have some, like, what's that about? Okay. What they mean is, we don't like complicated, incomprehensible, long words like trans. 5 letters. It's already an abbreviation, 5 letters. Too hard. Or cis, 3 letters and actually a prefix, but I mean, these are the people who don't like or understand pronouns, so let's not get too complicated here. Cis, too hard. All right. They don't actually generally mean that they want to talk about people in terms of male and female, because that's not something that we do in ordinary everyday interactions. Uh, if you don't believe me, I invite you to watch Deep Space Nine and think about how some of the Ferengi characters talk about women. They don't say women, they say female. And the females are breeding livestock, because that's how we refer to livestock, animals, chickens. Chickens are female or male. They are not men and women. Okay, they are not boys and girls. It sounds weird to refer to human beings by making a reference to their junk directly. Okay, that's not how normal people interact. Um, and that's not even how these people really want to interact. That's why they are the Gay Men's Network and not the Gay Males Network. It's just not how people are, right? I mean, there are some dudes out there who are like, I have penis. You listen to me. And some of these gay guys might be like that too, but most people understand that that's no longer, not that it ever was, an appropriate way to behave in an actual society. Um, this is where, the person holding the pamphlet is kind of like, you got to explain, all right? Um, and then we've got, we will fight attempts for our identities and language to be stolen or co-opted. Even I cannot make sense of this one. When you transition, I don't think the majority of trans people, at least not the trans people that I know, transition with a particular sexuality in mind. Because who you are and who you fuck are not all of the same, okay? I didn't set out to steal gay men's identity. I don't think that that's a thing that people actually plan to do or even can do. And then the thing about language. Now, I asked my cisgender boyfriend, who's gay, what the secret gay language is, because I'm unfamiliar with the gay language that belongs only to gay men. And he assured me that there isn't one, and I assure you that I am hugely disappointed, because wanting to be the evil trans that I am, I want to know. Because of, whoa, my evil plans, which you're going to have to tell me about, because I don't fucking know what they are talking about there. And then the last one is like the attempt to, get back the person who is presumably trying to get the fuck away at this point. All right. They end with, no, really, we are like a gay rights organization, because number 7 says we will work to support gay male detransitioners. See, we're the good guys. And that does sound generous, unless you're aware of a few facts. First, these groups don't support detransitioners. They exploit them. You just have to watch them for a bit to see it, believe me. Do it yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. They don't make a secret of it. You can watch them exploiting detransitioners in real time. And to be fair, some of these detransitioners are willing to be exploited, and that's their choice. But the thing that they really don't tell you, there's almost no detransitioners that fall into the category that they care about. And that's, because the vast majority of detransitioners who deserve far, far more support than what they are given, don't do it because of regret. They don't do it because, oops, I made a mistake and I'm not trans after all. That is an extremely tiny number. The vast majority of people who do detransition, which is really a tiny minority of trans people, do it because they are unable to pursue transition as fully as they would like, or they find that they've medically transitioned in a place that doesn't allow them to fix their paperwork, so they're still easily picked out and targeted, or they don't feel as though their transition has allowed them to be as passing or stealth as they would like in a place where trans people are, again, targeted for abuse. They don't feel safe because of, the people passing legislation making it clear that they really want to get rid of us. All kinds of reasons other than, oops, I'm not trans. So it sounds super generous, but in actuality, not so much. But it's, part of the grift. And then you get to the back page and they brag about the things that they have done. And that's also amusing. Because if you go to their website, which I'm not linking to because YouTube already promotes bigots over trans people, and fuck that, I'm not helping them. But if you go to this group's website, you'll find out that the three things that they list here, that's it. That's actually that's what they've done. And it's amusing because they say examples include. And they've kind of put it in the sort of the wrong order. So the thing out of the three that they've listed, the one at the last, which would in normal discourse would be like the strongest or the second strongest thing, and you hide the weakest thing in the middle. The thing that they've ended with is, their protest, which was just an angry letter to a company about their float at a pride parade, which was so fucking long ago and such a minor thing that the vast majority of people are unaware of it. Even people who were there have forgotten about this shit, okay? And it was just a float that was responding to TERFs at Pride. To say, oh, we see you, and we ain't all on board for this, okay? That's all it was. It was a float that had on it no LGB without the T. That's all it was. But that's their big, yeah, we did that. We wrote angry letter to float at Pride Parade that the vast majority of other people at Parade were not angry about. Okay. And the other two things, which are the actually concerning things, are they're bragging about their influence on politics in the UK. Okay, so the guidance for the Crown Prosecution Service about deception as to gender, and that's, I believe, about how statistical information about crime is collected, and how certain criminal acts are to be categorized based on gender. They want that changed, and they want to make sure that trans people aren't counted as the victims of specific hate crimes, which is what we are more likely to be than the perpetrators of any kind of crime. And just generally making life harder for trans people. And the other thing is the conversion therapy bill, which I'm more familiar about because there's, a sort of global movement against conversion therapy. And that's because most gay people anyways, understand that conversion therapy is abuse. It's not therapy. There's no medical evidence of any kind that it works. Legitimate professional medical bodies do not support it and are themselves actively campaigning against it. And in, Christian conversion therapy nonsense circles, let's be clear, the abuse can be pretty fucking extreme. Including like actual physical discomfort and torture and bullying and screaming at people, and all of their weird control shit. People understand that this isn't a legit thing. It's the homeopathy of psychology. All right, it's bullshit. What they're not telling you is that while, yes, they are not in favor of conversion therapy per se for gay people, they are totally cool with it being used on trans people. They don't tell you that on the pamphlet. You gotta go to the website to see that detail. But this not mentioning that bit is how they, we're gay rights. Okay. Um, so there's the brag, and then they say that we, want to connect gay men socially, and the way that they've done that is by setting up Twitter Spaces. I am sure that that took a lot of effort. It might actually be a thing, an activist thing, to say that you've set up a gay Twitter space now that, Elon is running the show there, but there already were gay men's spaces on Twitter, right? Let's be clear. And they say they're going to be looking at launching more social initiatives. I assume that this is going to go back to defending their right to single-sex male-only spaces and events. So this is going to be some sort of grubby basement with space for the 10 weirdos in this group, I guess. That they can't really police. Because how are you going to know? How are you going to know? These people think that they can spot a trans person like that, but let me assure you, they cannot. And even if you were pulling down people's pants and making it clear what a fucking weirdo you are, you still would not always be able to spot the trans man, okay? But, I say go for it. Socially isolate, all right? It makes going to events open to the public, gay friendly, gay welcoming, safer for the fucking rest of us, all right? So have at it. And then there's the beg for the money. Because of course they need money. Your generosity will help us defend our rights, fight homophobia, and promote positive message that homosexuality is normal. And see, in that is finally where they get to the bit about how they're going to generate the fear. Okay? Where does the why should I fucking care part come in? And it's this. And it's not on the flyer. You gotta go to the website to see this shit. They think that there is some sort of conspiracy to replace gay people with trans people. Some of the women's TERFs groups have also bought into this because they've read that irreversible damage by that, I think her last name is Schreiber. She used to be kind of like a semi-legitimate journalist, I think, for the Wall Street Journal, and she's found that it's easier just to make shit up, and so now she's making a living off that. They have this idea that, tomboys and possible lesbians are being transformed into trans men. Yeah. We'll come back to that in a minute. The QAnon crazies, they got a similar thing going. And it sounds like this. A group of shadowy, rich Jews are undermining white Christian American society by transing our children. And that sounds like some serious anti-Semitic shit 'cause it is. And this, while they have left out the anti Semitism, although you can hear it in some of these circles still, they're going with the same thing. Yeah. On the face of it, leaving aside, there's no evidence of this vast conspiracy by anyone. If you take it at face value, it's not an efficient means to replace any population. Okay, whether it's white Christian Americans or any type of gay person you care to name, because this takes forever. Whether it's your first puberty, or as in my case, your second, it takes years to medically transition. All right. You can't just hold someone down and, boop, give them one shot and voila, you have a trans. That is not how any of the things work. It's also, even if it is subsidized by the government through real social health care like they have in Belgium, where I live now, still really fucking expensive. Okay, you're seeing that there are some problems with this idea. Okay, it's not rational. It's not. It's also largely inaccessible. Okay, the sort of infrastructure that you would have to like actively go out there and identify possibly gay minors or gay adults and then bring them to the transgender production line doesn't exist. There's far more demand for transgender healthcare than there is actually available. All right, the vast majority of transgender people on this planet are not ever going to get even within sniffing distance of transgender healthcare or medical transitioning. It's just not there. So, yeah, there's all those practical reasons why their conspiracy theory is not a thing. And then lastly, there's the sort of minor detail about how a lot of transgender people don't fucking tell anyone because it's a secret. These fuckers don't know for sure. A lot of us gay. So this is all, being gay is normal. I fucking agree. What am I mean, these guys are like, we like dick. Me too. I mean, it's crazy. Like the idea that there are hordes of trans women who go to the bathroom looking for cis women to attack rather than, just taking a shit. It's crazy. But that's how they are generating the fear. Okay? Yep. Why? Well, there's the grift. They're asking for money, and you know that money wasn't fucking spent on 3 letters that cost nothing to write in actuality, because it's not like they had to pay a researcher. It's just full of shit that they made up that they heard from other crazy people. All right? That didn't cost nothing. Printing up flyers, I've printed up flyers before. Not that expensive, especially if you get them back off the people who are disinterested and who are just going to throw them in the garbage before you got the chance to. Not a lot of money. It's setting up a Twitter, fucking free, close to free, maybe $8 if the haggling between Stephen King and Elon works out. I mean, and the supporting of all of the nearly non existent detransitioners that would come to this group for help. All right. The money is to pay for their little bigot vacations at bigot conventions and hate rallies. That's what the money is for. It's not because they are actually a gay rights organization. So there's the grift. Some of them might be true believers. It's often hard to tell the difference depending on the level of insanity that is, shining through. But I think part of it is that when you look at a lot of these groups, you see a certain consistency. All right? A certain lack of diversity. The groups pretending to be gay rights groups who are targeting trans people are often, and you can dispute this, but this has been my observation, white, upper middle class, not the working poor by any means, more professional background, some level of education, higher education, clearly not enough. Not a lot of diversity in these groups. I mean, you'll find like the occasional person of color, but that is not the norm. I think that what we have here is largely a group of people who have first world problems. All right? This shit is really springing up in places where cis gay people have, largely, especially cis gay males, white cis gay males, gotten what they care about, but they still want to feel victimized. They still want to present themselves as the victims of something. And they have settled on an imaginary thing, the threat of trans people and Mr. Potato Head and a purple M&M and whatever other fucking crazy shit that they take against. All right? Meanwhile, the gay people that they do not know and have no real experience with, like they like for the rest of us to show up at pride parades to help bulk out the numbers, but we can't be too too not respectable. Otherwise they have no experience with lower income people who don't look like them, usually people who are non-Christian, the trans people, everybody else who's had a different experience in life, they don't really have a lot of experience with that diversity, and they're kind of scared of it. They want to keep their position on the top of the queer pile, and the rest of us under them, which is one of the reasons why they hang out with homophobic, bigoted, conservative politicians. They're not threatened. These people are not threatened by that because those are their friends. That's the people they got all the other things in common with, like their private schools and, their special accents and all of their money and all of that shit. They are not threatened by that. That's like when Donald Trump tells Caitlyn Jenner that, Trump doesn't care if she uses any toilet she likes in Trump Tower. She can hang out with Trump and the rest of, the weirdos that make up today's Republican Party and not feel threatened in the least, really, because she knows none of that shit that they say applies to her, really, in practice. All right, and so this is kind of the same thing. Um, but no one likes being the villain, so, you know, you gotta claim to be the victim of somebody. Somebody. And, conflate first world imaginary problems with real problems. That's why these people, they claim that a critique of their position is exactly the same as them legislating against the very existence of people like me. Those two things in their heads, exactly the same. Justified critique and discrimination written into law. Same thing to them. Yeah. So that's it. That's why this flyer was so interesting. Feel free to disagree with my assessment of the motives and composition of these various bigot groups, grifting and panhandling. How they do it, why they do it, and all of that. These are, my observations thus far. Maybe I will change my mind in the future about who these groups are largely made up of and how they do this and why they do it, but I kind of doubt it at this point. I haven't heard a lot of arguments against that don't draw upon things that are not real. But we shall see. Anyhow, I feel good. Hope you enjoyed the rant as much as I liked ranting, and hopefully I will see you soon. And in the meantime, make good choices, take care of each other, and stay safe. Bye.